I can still save you. We are all dead.
Thor's vision in Age of Ultron not only predicted the end of Infinity War, but also everything that happened in Avengers Endgame, Multiverse of Madness, Loki, and it also set up the rise of Kang the Conqueror, He Who Remains, and Avengers Secret Wars. Hey, welcome back ScreenCrush, I'm Harriet, and I'm going to explain to you why the weirdest part of Age of Ultron was actually one of the most important moments in the MCU. Now look, we posted a similar video about this about 5-6 years ago, but now we have so much more information. So I'm going to revisit a few things that I talked about 6 years ago, and by the way, I cannot believe how much those random clips in Age of Ultron told us exactly what was going to happen in the MCU for years to come.
I do not remember what you're talking about.
Well, remember, in Avengers Age of Ultron, Wanda gave lots of characters these weird visions that tapped into their subconscious. But all of those visions ended up coming true. Some of them had obvious meanings, like Tony's.
You could have saved us.
But others, like Thor and Natasha's, were more confusing.
You're a destroyer, Odinson.
I have no place in the world.
Exactly.
So I'm going to explain what all these visions mean, how they connect to Infinity War, Endgame, and Loki, and what this can mean for the future of the MCU and the return of Wanda Maximoff and her eventual redemption. And thank you so much for watching us, clicking on this video, and supporting our channel. Now I say this a lot, but one of the best ways you can continue to support our channel is by shopping at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design the merch ourselves. Today we are actually launching this brand new Doug as Thor shirt, part of our Doug Avenger collection, and we've also got the Higher, Further, Faster, the variant hoodie, and many more. Plus, you can buy tickets to our live show on February 22nd in Brooklyn, New York. Tickets are almost sold out, so be sure to act fast. So, to understand the purpose of this video, we have to understand exactly how crucial these visions were for everything that happens in the MCU. In Age of Ultron, Tony sees a vision of the Avengers dead and Earth falling to aliens, which freaks him out so much that he creates Ultron. Then Ultron devastates a country, leading the world governments to create the Sokovia Accords, which leads to civil war and the destruction of the Avengers. Now, because the Avengers are broken apart, Thanos is able to get all 6 Infinity Stones and snap away half of all life in the universe. This leads to the Avengers traveling through time, creating a variant of Loki, then reversing the snap and Tony Stark dying. Afterwards, Wanda, in her grief over losing Vision, creates the town of Westview, becomes a Scarlet Witch, starts dreamwalking, and nearly destroys all of reality. Now, the Loki variant was then arrested by time cops called the Time Variance Authority, who secretly worked for a time traveler named He Who Remains, or Kang the Conqueror, who scripted all of these events to occur.
I paved the road.
Ravonna Renslayer even says that here.
We're not here to talk about the Avengers. What they did was supposed to happen.
Now, in the show Loki, it is revealed that He Who Remains was actually orchestrating these events so he could groom Loki to take his place.
Can't you see what I'm offering here is mercy?
Which he actually does do at the end of the series. But what I find so interesting about this is that when you go through the history of the MCU, you can actually see how He Who Remains was influencing these events. He communicated with the Avengers through the Infinity Stones.
Well, another Valentine's Day and I am all alone and ugly.
Oh, what are you talking about? You're a good-looking guy, you're great.
No, you don't understand. You see, I'm losing my hair.
Dude, that is just silly. You're amazing. And if your hair is thinning, don't worry. You can actually do something about it with Keeps. They're the sponsor of this video. You guys will not believe how many people I know start losing their hair, but they put off doing something about it.
Wow, does Keeps actually work?
Yes. According to clinical studies, treatments offered by Keeps are 90% effective at treating hair loss, and they can increase hair growth by up to 35%. Like, I get a personalized plan from a licensed medical provider without even leaving my home. I can even message this medical provider at any time via Keeps' secure messaging portal.
So you really use Keeps?
I sure do, because there's a history of hair loss in my family, so when my hair started to thin, I didn't waste any time. In fact, most Keeps customers begin to see results within 6 months of starting treatment, so it is very important to act fast, and you have to start early and stick with it. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you're going to save. Keeps stopped my hair loss right in its tracks, and they have already helped nearly 1 million men like us keep their hair. And that is why Keeps has more than 4,500 5-star reviews. And believe me guys, make this your New Year's resolution. I would have lost my hair years ago if it were not for Keeps. So if you're noticing that you're losing your hair, don't ignore it or hope it goes away. Do something about it right now, because hair loss stops with Keeps. To get a special offer, go to keeps.com/ScreenCrush or click the link in the description. That is keeps.com/ScreenCrush. Now back to what I was saying. Now look, when I say that Kang used the Infinity Stones, it sounds kind of like wild and fanficky, but the stones do have a governing central intelligence.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. The Red Skull says,
You might say it has a certain wisdom.
And in First Avenger, the Space Stone delivered Red Skull to Vormir, so he could then guard the Soul Stone. And in the deleted Norn scene from Avengers Age of Ultron, the Norns tell Selvig,
The Infinite Six. Come.
cannot be joined nor kept apart.
Meaning that the stones can never be fully combined into one entity, but they are always drawn toward one another. By the way, they really should restore that entire deleted scene. Not only does it set up the next two Avengers movies perfectly, but it also establishes the real threat of that movie is not Ultron, it's actually the Mind Stone itself.
The stone draws you all to its brilliance, and you to your end.
So also, the ether in Thor the Dark World is semi-sentient. Odin says,
It seeks out host bodies.
so we have now established that the stones do have a will of their own. They are connected by a central intelligence, an unseen force that works through them. And in Loki Season 1, we learn who that force was, He Who Remains.
I paved the road.
So let's look back at all the visions we see in Age of Ultron and at Wanda's vision that we saw in WandaVision, because Wanda's original Infinity Stone vision at the Hydra Castle was actually the original vision that He Who Remains sent to the Avengers to influence the timeline. But first we have to talk about Ultron's vision. Now, we broke this down very thoroughly in another video. It's great, you should check it out, but I'll give you a quick summary. Ultron is not just an AI program like Jarvis or Friday. Tony wanted to create an AI so advanced that it could become
A suit of armor around the world.
So he and Bruce tried to use the Mind Stone to create a more advanced AI than they could have ever made with the current technology they possessed on Earth. But here's the interesting thing. Tony and Bruce didn't really create Ultron. The Mind Stone created Ultron. Because remember, Tony says to Bruce,
Only when I've created a murder bot.
We didn't. We weren't even close.
after Tony and Bruce leave the room, the Mind Stone brings Ultron to life.
What is this?
Now, in that other video we made, we run through like all of these flashes that Ultron saw, talking about how Tony quoting Neville Chamberlain capitulating to Hitler
Peace in our time.
led Ultron down a rabbit hole of peace signs, colonization, and the unification of Berlin, followed by, images of Tony Stark building weapons. So Ultron essentially sees that humanity's quest for peace is illogical because human beings are so flawed that we can never truly achieve peace. Instead, he creates a plan for humanity to instead evolve because
When the earth starts to settle, God throws a stone at it. And believe me, he's winding up.
So what does the Mind Stone got to do with all that?
well, consider this. How did Ultron know that the Mind Stone was inside the scepter? Nothing on the internet would have contained data about the scepter or the Infinity Stones. Ultron knew about the stone because he was created by the stone. The stone spoke to him, it gave him life, and therefore we could assume that the stone might have shown Ultron those visions on the internet to give him a purpose.
What purpose is that?
Well, in our previous video, I suggested that this shared Infinity Stone intelligence knew that Thanos was coming, as Thor's vision will show us later. And the stones would be able to see the future because they are all connected to the Time Stone and share a central intelligence. Therefore, they would know that Thanos would eventually snap the stones away to atoms. So the stones want to protect themselves. And they knew the Avengers cannot protect the Earth, so they wanted Ultron to protect Earth instead. And as we saw in What If Season 1, Ultron was a perfect guardian for the stones. No one in his universe could defeat him when he held all 6 of those rocks. But consider this. Ultron's going rogue eventually led to the events of Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. And Endgame resulted in a Loki variant taking over for He Who Remains. So ultimately, I believe the stones actually serve the will of He Who Remains. But look, I'm not just cherry picking stuff here. Let's go through all these other visions, especially Thor's, and you'll see what I mean. The next important vision was Wanda's when she activated her powers. Now the stone shows her a vision of her final form, the Scarlet Witch. Now this one is arguably even more important than Ultron's vision because Wanda was responsible for the disaster in Lagos. That's the event that triggered the events of Civil War and the breakup of the Avengers. And remember, after Lagos, Tony locked Wanda up at the Avengers compound. And Steve was actually ready to sign the Accords and keep the Avengers together until he found out about Wanda's house arrest.
This is protection. It's internment.
She's
Tony.
not a U.S. citizen and they don't grant visas
Tony.
to weapons of mass
She's a
destruction.
kid.
Give me a break!
But even more crucially, Wanda was the person who showed the visions to the Avengers, leading Tony Stark to create Ultron to begin with, preparing Natasha for her sacrifice, the creation of the vision, and setting up Thor to go off on his quest. And as we'll talk about, each of these events contributed to the Avengers getting an Infinity Stone and the Loki variant going down his predetermined path to take over for He Who Remains. Now, Wanda getting her powers and becoming the Scarlet Witch also means that in Multiverse of Madness, she would dreamwalk and threaten the multiverse, but we're going to explain what that means for Avengers Secret Wars a little later in the video. So let's start with Tony's vision because it's the easiest to interpret. He sees a possible future where Earth is being invaded by more Chitauri ships, like the ones we saw in Endgame. The Avengers are dead and Cap's shield is split, also like it was in Endgame. And by the way, speaking of Endgame and Steve's shield, did you ever notice that when Steve does this, he did that so the shield would be a tourniquet on his arm so he wouldn't bleed out during the fight.
Oh no, that is so cool.
Thank you. So, Tony's worst nightmares have come true. He has failed to protect Earth.
You could have saved us.
So this small moment where Steve admonishes him is also connected to Tony's deeper trauma. Tony has like real deep daddy issues. He actually made weapons for decades because he wanted to carry on his father's legacy. And Steve Rogers fought alongside his father. His dad like never shut up about Steve. So in a lot of ways, Steve is a proxy father to Tony. So in a way, this is like Howard Stark berating his son for not being good enough. And also remember, his dad made that shield. So this is Tony seeing that his father's weaponry, his father's legacy would not be enough to protect the Earth. Now this vision intensifies Tony's existing PTSD and motivates him to create Ultron. It also motivates him to continue to wear his chest plate in Infinity War. And of course, Tony's nanotech from that chest plate is what allowed him to get the Infinity Stones and ultimately defeat Thanos, but at the cost of his own life. So Tony takes all of this vision to mean that he has to do more to build better weapons. But it could have also been a vision telling him that he needed to keep the Avengers together. See, prophecy is often misinterpreted.
You're completely missing the point of this!
In the greatest tragedies, like Oedipus Rex or Revenge of the Sith, characters' efforts to prevent portended doom often causes those same events to happen. Similarly, Tony's interpretation of this vision is what splits the Avengers and leads to Thanos' victory.
So why did Wanda want Thanos to win? I mean, she's the one giving everybody these visions.
Hold on, you misunderstand me. I don't think that Wanda ever deliberately gave the Avengers very specific visions. She wasn't the architect of them. She just released a little bit of chaos energy into their brains that showed them their worst nightmares. And again, this was actually the Infinity Stones that were showing the Avengers these visions. Remember what Wanda told Vision at the end of WandaVision.
You, Vision, are the piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me.
So a piece of the Mind Stone is still inside of Wanda, meaning that if the stones do have a central governing intelligence, then the stones are always there to guide Wanda's actions, which would also mean that he who remains through the stones was also guiding Wanda's actions.
Oh, I see. This is getting good.
You have no idea. It's about to get a lot better. So the next vision is Steve's. It shows him at a party to celebrate the end of the war.
We can go home.
When suddenly, he is alone. Now, you could say this was a prophecy about Thanos' snap and people he loves going missing, but what this really does is plant a seed in Steve's mind. Before this, he didn't dwell on the past. He kept himself busy fighting different threats to the world and being an Avenger. But after this, he sees what he really wants. And in Endgame, when he sees Peggy Carter and S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 1970s, he realizes that he actually has the means to be with her. Now, this is important because the screenwriters of the Captain America trilogy and Avengers 3 and 4, Marcus and McFeely, have said that they believe that Steve was always Peggy's secret husband in the main MCU timeline. Now, if that's true, then it means that Steve had to go back in time to be with Peggy. It meant that Steve, behind the scenes, would have been making sure that Peggy and Howard Stark were making the correct choices to form S.H.I.E.L.D., so events would happen exactly as they did to send Steve back in time. Otherwise, it would create a time paradox. But wait, there's more. There's Natasha's vision. So she sees her training in the Red Room when she was made to kill for the first time. But we also see these little girls who have no mouths. This is foreshadowing the events of Black Widow. We see that Natasha was basically sold into child slavery along with the other widows. And in that movie, she learns that the Red Room is not only still in operation, but it's worse than ever. The Widow assassins are being fully mind controlled. So, like Dreykov's daughter Taskmaster, the girls cannot speak, just like the little girls that she saw in the vision. So this is all hinting to Natasha that she has unfinished business to take care of. And she takes care of that unfinished business in the movie Black Widow.
I get shit done.
She dismantles the Red Room, which brings her life full circle. So because of this, in Avengers Endgame, she knows that she is ready to die for the greater good.
I have no place in the world.
Had Natasha not had this vision and dealt with her past trauma, maybe she and Clint would have decided to find another way to get a Soul Stone. And they would have ultimately failed, and the snap would have never been reversed. And Steve would have never gone back in time to be with Peggy and guide history during S.H.I.E.L.D.'s formative years. But the weirdest vision of Age of Ultron was also the most important, Thor's vision. Now, when the movie was released, this one seemed pretty superfluous. After all, it really is just a way to take a powerful Avenger off the board so Thor doesn't just defeat Ultron when they chase down Vision's body. And like I said earlier, the extended Norn scene is much better. So, let's break down exactly what we see here.
Break it down.
Thor is at a party in Asgard where Heimdall says,
"They see you leading us to hell. We are all dead."
Now, this would likely be Hell with one L, the Asgardian Hell, which is ruled by Hela, the villain of Thor Ragnarok. But the line, "We are all dead," foreshadows that 3/4 of the Asgardians are about to die. Half are going to be killed by Thanos, and then half of the survivors are going to be snapped away. Not to mention all the people that Hela killed whenever she took over Asgard. And he says that Thor is leading them to hell because all of this is Thor's fault. He lets Asgard be destroyed to take down Hela, and his leadership led the Asgardians to being killed by Thanos. And then He didn't go for the head, which allowed Thanos to snap away the remaining half of his people. Heimdall even confirms Thor's destroyer path.
You're a destroyer, Odinson.
And this is followed by Thor shooting lightning from his chest and killing Asgardians. This clearly foreshadows Thor's lightning powers in Thor Ragnarok and also his role in the destruction of Asgard and also half the universe. Heimdall also says,
"See where your power leads."
Now this could be foreshadowing his journey in Infinity War, when he has to travel to the source of his hammer, Nidavellir, to create a new weapon to kill or at least maim Thanos. Now Thor's vision eventually leads to him leaving Earth to explore space and look for the stones. In his absence, Loki rules Asgard and the 9 realms fall into chaos. So this vision ultimately causes the destruction of Asgard. But more importantly, it also means that the Space Stone was going to be fairly easy for Thanos to grab. This stone was key in Thanos' quest. With the Space Stone, he could easily travel across the universe and go after the remaining stones before people had a chance to mount a defense. And again, Thanos gathering the Infinity Stones eventually led to Loki taking control of the timelines to give He Who Remains a break.
I'm tired.
The extended Norn scene goes on to foreshadow Thanos. Thor and Selvig think these visions are about stopping Ultron, but I believe they're all about the Infinity Stones and warning of the coming threat, Thanos. When they ask how to stop Ultron, the Norns say,
"Sacrifice."
What kind?
Human, of course.
Now, sacrifice was not the way to stop Ultron, but it was the key to stopping Thanos. On 4 different occasions in Infinity War, characters are asked to make sacrifices for the greater good. Peter Quill, Doctor Strange, and Wanda all could have stopped Thanos by killing someone innocent, but they hesitated. But Thanos did not hesitate. He chucked his daughter off a cliff and ended up winning the ultimate power glove. And how did the Avengers end up winning in Endgame? Through sacrifice. Natasha and Tony each had to sacrifice their lives. And later, the Norns' words,
"We count the dead, and they are legion,"
are warning about half the universe being wiped away. And the Norns also say,
"Fear father's ambition,"
which could be a warning about Thanos. The Mad Titan's followers are called the children of Thanos, and when Thanos gathers the gems and becomes a god, in many ways he becomes like the father of all creation. Now, at the end of Thor's vision, he sees the Infinity Gauntlet and the Vision possessing a stone on his forehead, and it is this dream that inspires Vision's name.
I've had a vision. A whirlpool that sucks in all hope of life, and at its center is that.
It's a pretty good name, actually.
And this is really what Age of Ultron was about, the creation of the Vision. Vision is actually key in the events of Phase 3 and in the aftermath of Endgame and the build-up to Secret Wars. I mean, think about what Thor says. He says that he sees a whirlpool of darkness that has the stone at its center. In Infinity War, the climax is all about the Avengers forming a protective circle around the Vision to protect the stone. He is at the center of the snap, a whirling cosmic maelstrom with him in the eye of the storm. And when that snap happens, what do we hear? Thunder. Like a storm is spreading across the universe with Vision at its center. And the Mind Stone is also on the center of the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, we made our last Thor Vision video right after Infinity War. And now we can actually see what all of this was really setting up. Tony's vision was inaccurate. The wrong Avengers are dead because these are all the Avengers that survived the snap. And also in the vision, he is living when he's the person who actually dies. But that vision showed him the darkest timeline, and it gave him the courage to be the one to do the snap and destroy Thanos. Natasha's vision allowed her to complete unfinished business, so she is ready to sacrifice herself. And Steve's sets him on a quest that returns him to his proper place in the timeline. But the 2 most important visions are the first and last ones, Wanda's and Thor's. Thor's vision creates the Vision, and Wanda's original vision set her on the path to becoming the Scarlet Witch, a being that is destined to destroy the world.
It's your destiny to destroy the world.
And the creation of the Vision ultimately leads to the Vision's death, Wanda grieving, then creating Westview, and then her becoming the Scarlet Witch. And remember, the Vision was actually created by Thor. He gave him life with his lightning powers. And remember what Heimdall said?
You're a destroyer, Odinson.
And so maybe Thor wasn't the ultimate destroyer. Maybe his careless action when he created the Vision actually set loose a greater threat, the Scarlet Witch. Now, this is where it gets a little weird.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
I do think that He Who Remains was setting up everything that we've talked about because it led to Loki becoming the god of stories and setting He Who Remains free. So all through the events of phases 4 and 5, Loki has actually been at the center of time and space, while the TVA was working to prevent Kang variants from starting a multiversal war. But remember, Loki was doing all this so people could have free will. Loki is not pulling the strings, he's just holding them in place. So that means that everything that happens post-Endgame is not part of He Who Remains' plan. Or is it? I think that He Who Remains / Kang actually set an event into motion that is continuing on without his direct influence, and it all comes down to Wanda.
That doesn't seem fair.
In Multiverse of Madness, Wanda dreamwalks, an event that causes incursions. You remember what incursions are.
An incursion occurs when the boundary between two universes erodes and they collide, destroying one or both entirely.
So it's likely that Avengers 5 and 6 are going to be all about these incursions, with the Fox X-Men characters having to face off against the MCU characters as they decide whose universe is going to live or die. These events could have been set into motion by Wanda's dreamwalking. That could have caused these universes to collide. Or maybe the plan was for Wanda to destroy all the Darkholds in every reality, because the Darkholds are also a threat to the multiverse because they allow dreamwalking, which causes incursions and destroys timelines. But here's where I think all of this is really going toward. He Who Remains used the Infinity Stones to manipulate the Avengers into freeing him from his timeline prison. But then, where did he go? Did he go on vacation? There's actually no way for us to know right now, so he may still be out there. But what we do know, or can at least presume, is that Avengers Secret Wars is going to follow the template of the other Secret Wars comics. The multiverse will collapse and reform into a single patchwork world composed of variants from all the Marvel movies. And afterwards, a new, stable multiverse will be reborn, where the X-Men were like always part of the MCU. Now, in the comics, this new multiverse is created by Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue.
I have children of my own. I understand your pain.
But I think we're years away from Franklin being a character, and in the MCU, nobody's got that kind of power except Wanda. So let's just assume that in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda
did not die.
And so that would free her up to return in these other movies. She will want to redeem herself for her actions when she killed a bunch of people, because her dreamwalking caused incursions that are destroying the multiverse. And so Wanda, maybe linking up her magic with Loki, will end up restoring the multiverse to the way it should be, because she displayed reality creation abilities in the show WandaVision when she remade Westview. And all of this was set into motion by He Who Remains using the Infinity Stones. And all of it started with the visions in Age of Ultron.
Hey, I just want to say, thanks for the keeps. I got to keep my hair.
That's great, buddy. And just a reminder to stop your hair loss today, click our link in the description for a special offer from Keeps. So let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below, or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.